Well, you've got your speech topic. Now what are you going to do? You're going to build an outline, which is what we're going to talk about in this video. To get us started, every outline is going to need an introduction. The introduction serves two critical purposes in our speech. First, it grabs the audience's attention and gets them engaged in our speech. Second, it reveals the actual topic and main points of our speech to the audience so they know what we're talking about. Let's go through each part of the introduction. First, we need some sort of attention getter, something that's going to captivate and grab the audience's attention. It could be a startling statistic, a harrowing story, a rhetorical question, something to get the audience thinking about the topic at hand. Second, we need to build some sort of connection with the audience to the topic, also sometimes called audience relevance. Now, a lot of our audience is going to be thinking, why should I be listening to this speech and this topic? Why should I care? That's where you need to come in and build that clear connection to the audience about why they need to hear about this topic and why they should be listening to your speech. Third, we need to establish our own credibility as a speaker. Now, throughout your speech, you'll build credibility by the in-text citations or oral citations that you use, but here at the top of the speech, it's important to establish credibility so the audience can know, why should I be listening to you as a speaker talk about this topic? You might establish credibility by talking about your experiences with the topic, or talking about the research that you've done on this topic that you'll use your in-text citations for later. Next, we're going to talk about our thesis statement. Now, thesis statements can be some of the most challenging statements to write, and I totally understand. So visit the Communication Center if you need some more help here. But overall, our thesis statement should be a sort of umbrella topic encompassing the purpose and the central idea of our speech. Today, I'm going to be informing you about cats. That is a very clear thesis statement. Now, it might not fit the criteria, it might be a little too broad for actual speech, but it gives you a sort of example of what a thesis statement might look like. Very importantly, our preview of main points and our thesis statement are two distinct statements. You might think while they do go together, they are two distinct statements, and our preview of points needs to be a clear overview of the topic sentences of our main points. So if my thesis statement is about cats, then my preview of points might be talking about house cats, cats in the jungle, and cats in the desert, if cats are in the desert. That's going to be a bit of an example of a preview of main points. Following our preview of main points, we need some sort of transition statement to close out this section of our speech and let the audience know that we're now moving from our introduction to our main body points. Transition statements can be anything ranging from firstly, first, to start, to begin with, some sort of guidepost that lets our audience know we've finished this section of the speech and we're moving on. After concluding our introduction, we want to head to our body points. We're going to have 3 to 4 main body points in our speech. Now, there's a few different reasons why we might only have 3 to 4. The time constraints are going to make it a little bit challenging to do anything more than 3 to 4 main points. Additionally, it's kind of hard for the audience to remember things that are said. That is, we have some studies on that people really don't tend to remember if you don't repeat. So keeping it from 3 to 4 main points is going to help the audience not get overwhelmed by the information that you're providing. Each main body point should start with a topic sentence overviewing for the audience the purpose of that main point and how it connects to our thesis statement. And following that topic sentence, we're going to have supporting explanations, examples, and those oral citations of sources to help us build that credibility as a speaker throughout our speech. In between every main body point, we're going to have additional transitions to let the audience know we've now concluded this main body point and we're moving to the next main body point. Transitions in this case should include internal summaries of what we just talked about and give a slight preview of what we're going to talk about. Lastly, we have our conclusion. Now, similar to our introduction, our conclusion is going to have a transition to conclusion, letting the audience know that we're now coming to the end of our speech. Similar to our preview of points, we're going to have a summary of main points. It's going to be a little bit more in depth here because our audience has already heard the main body points that we've talked about, so we can include a little bit longer summaries here than we did in our preview of points. We're also going to restate our thesis to remind the audience what was the purpose and central topic of our speech. Lastly, we want to end with a sort of concluding remark, what I call our mic drop moments, if you will. And our mic drop moment should leave the audience with something memorable, something to think about. Similar to our attention getter, we might do something sort of a rhetorical question. Maybe if you started a story in the introduction, we're ending it here in our conclusion or ending on a startling statistic. For informative speeches, it's very important in this concluding remark to be aware that persuasion can kind of sneak in here. Now, if you're doing a persuasive speech, having a concluding remark that has a sort of call to action is normal and kind of what we'd like to see. If you're doing an informative speech, however, we want to make sure that there's no persuasion in this concluding remark and that it remains informative, just leaving the audience with something to think about. Visit the Communication Center if any of this sounds a little bit tricky, or if you'd like some feedback on any pieces and parts of your speech outline. Now, throughout this outline, you might have thought, wow, I kind of repeat myself a lot. But that's actually what we call planned redundancy and pretty typical in our speeches. The reason that we kind of reinforce the points that we're talking about is to really leave the audience with a sort of memorable speech. It can be kind of difficult to remember things if they're not repeated pretty frequently, and so we want to make sure in that planned redundancy throughout our speeches that everything is sort of aligned and makes sense with itself and each other. In addition to outlining, we also need to include sources in our outlines. These sources include academic sources, which are peer-reviewed, written for scholars by scholars, usually found in scholarly or academic journals, as well as credible sources, which may not be peer-reviewed, but they're written by journalists or professionals for the general public, and these could be found in well-established newspapers, government, or university websites. Sources are really important, again, for building credibility as a speaker, but for also showing that your topic is well thought out, there's research to support it, and it can be fact-checked. If you have any questions about the outlining process or would like some assistance getting outlining help, visit the Communication Center. We are here and happy to help.